Hello everyone. Welcome back to a new session on Pila globosa, and in this presentation we will be looking into in detail the blood vascular system of Pila. The blood vascular system of Pila, it is of open type or the lacunar type. The open type of blood vascular system, it is unique in having the blood flowing through open spaces. In the case of Pila, they do have blood vessels arising from the heart and ending in the heart, but there are areas where the blood flows through open spaces like lacunae and sinuses, and hence the blood vascular system in the case of Pila, it is referred to be of open type or the lacunar type. Okay, and the blood vascular system, it consists of the blood, heart, the blood vessels, arteries and veins, and the sinuses. Okay, now the blood, if you speak about the blood is the main circulatory fluid. It is the main function of blood is to transport substances from one to the other part of the body. It mainly transports oxygen and what you call the nutrients from the site of absorption to the site where it is being getting utilized, that is cells or tissues. The blood is also responsible for the transport of waste substances from the cells and tissues where it is being produced to the site where it is getting expelled out. Okay, for the excretory surfaces through which it is getting expelled out. Now, the blood is composed of blood plasma and the leukocytes present in that. The blood plasma, it is a fluid part, and the leukocytes are the cellular component of the blood. The leukocytes, if you see, they are amoeboid, they are like colorless, stellate shaped cells, amoeboid cells actually. They don't have any specific shape. They move by amoeboid movement, and they are phagocytic in nature. That is the leukocytes, they are phagocytic in habit. Okay, now the blood plasma contains hemocyanin. It is the respiratory pigment dissolved in that. The hemocyanin, it is similar to the hemoglobin present in humans, found in humans. The difference being that in the case of hemocyanin, it contains copper atom. So hemocyanin is a copper containing respiratory pigment. The hemocyanin, it contains two copper atoms which are linked to polypeptide chain. Okay, so the two copper atoms are linked to a polypeptide chain to produce what is referred as a hemocyanin, as against four iron atoms attached to porphyrin ring in the case of hemoglobin. So that is these are the differences. Now we can see that the copper atoms or the iron atoms, we can see that each atom can bind with the as actually a oxygen molecule. So in the case of hemoglobin, four iron atoms can transport four oxygen molecules, while in the case of hemocyanin, two copper atoms can bind to two molecules of oxygen only. So hemoglobin is an efficient respiratory pigment in carrying more amount of oxygen as against the hemocyanin. But in the case of Pila, hemocyanin, it is found dissolved in the plasma. Now, another important feature is that, like in the case of hemocyanin, when it is deoxygenated, that is, when it do have less amount of oxygen, it is colorless in nature. But when it is oxygenated, it is blue in color. Okay, that is why the term has come cyano, right? So hemocyanin, when it is oxygenated, when it comes in contact with oxygen, it becomes bluish in color. Okay, so this is about the what you call the blood part. Okay, the next component is the heart. Okay, the in the case of Pila, the heart, it is bilocular in nature. It is myogenic. Okay, so what is myogenic? Myogenic in the sense it is not the neuronal control that brings about the contraction relaxation of the chambers of the heart. Instead, it is the muscular coordination which brings about the pulsating contraction relaxation of the heart. Okay, so it is myogenic in nature. Okay, and it do have it is bilocular in nature, that is it do have two chambers. Okay, it is two chambered, that is it is having only a single auricle and a single ventricle. Auricle smaller than the ventricle. Okay, auricle, it is considered to be the chamber which receives blood from various parts of the body, while ventricle, it is a part which actually distributes blood to various parts of the body. Okay, now so auricle and ventricle, it makes up the bilocular heart of the Pila. Now, the heart as such, it is being enclosed within the pericardium. You can see here, this is the pericardium. It's marked over here. You can see the pericardium. Uh, it- the, uh, the pericardium, it is behind. It is from the what you call behind the mantle cavity towards the left side. You can see the heart and the pericardium. Okay, the pericardium, it is in close contact with the renal organ, and the pericardial cavity, the cavity enclosed by the pericardial membrane, it is a coelomic space. That is, it is filled with coelom. Okay, and the pericardial cavity, it communicates with the renal chamber through renopericardial aperture. So that is about the pericardial membrane or the pericardium. Okay. The pericardial cavity, it represents a true coelom as it communicates with the kidneys, and in the case of embryonic stage, the reproductive cells develop from its wall. So it is considered to be a true what you call a coelomic space. The pericardial cavity is considered to be a true coelomic space. Fine. Now coming back to the heart, the structure, as already mentioned, it is divided into two, or it is composed of two chambers. That is the auricle and a ventricle. Auricle, that is this part, it is thin walled and highly contractile chamber. Uh, it is situated in the dorsal part of the pericardium. Okay, so this is a pericardium, and this auricle, it is located towards the dorsal side. Okay, and you can see the dorsal side of the auricle, again, dorsal side of the auricle, it receives blood through three main vessels. Okay, uh, you can see here the auricles, it receives oxygenated blood as well as deoxygenated blood. So it is, there is no demarcation or differentiation between oxygenated and deoxygenated blood over here. It actually, it do have a slight mixing up. Okay, oxygenated blood is received through these two vessels, that is efferent pulmonary vein and efferent tenedial vein. Okay, so what is efferent referring to? We have two terms, afferent, that is afferent, afferent, and efferent. When we looked into the respiratory structure, we saw that afferent tenedial vessel enters the tenedium, and efferent tenedial vessel, it came out, isn't it? So afferent, if you are speaking about afferent vessel with respect to a particular organ, it means afferent. I'm speaking about AFFE. Okay, afferent vessel, if you're speaking about with reference to a particular organ, it means that particular vessel, it is ending in that particular organ, and it takes the blood towards the organ. Okay, now when we are speaking about efferent, it is EFFE, it means it is coming out of that particular organ. So if it is efferent pulmonary vein, what does it mean? It is a vessel, it is a vein which actually carry blood away from the lungs. Okay, so here it is away from the lungs towards the heart, right? Similarly, efferent tenedial vein, what does it mean? It comes out of the tenedium, it takes blood from the tenedium. Okay, this is efferent renal vein, that means it is coming out from the kidney, right, ending up in the heart. Okay, coming back, so we have two vessels, these two vessels which carry oxygenated blood. Oxygenated blood is carried from pulmonary sac or the lung, right? Obviously there is a aerobic respiration which helps in oxygenation of the blood, right? So the oxygenated blood comes into the auricle through the efferent pulmonary vein. Similarly, at the tenedium or the gills, gaseous exchange takes place and the blood gets oxygenated, and this oxygenated blood is carried from the tenedia to the heart through the efferent tenedial vein, right? But it is not the case, that is only, it's not that only oxygenated blood reaches the auricle. There is another set of vessel which carries deoxygenated blood. It needn't be deoxygenated, actually it is we can't say it is oxygenated, that is it. Okay, because there is no gaseous exchange taking place in the kidney. So what happens in the kidney, at the kidney level, what happens is the blood, the waste substances in the blood, it is getting filtered out. So the blood which is carried from the kidney to the heart through the efferent renal vein is actually waste free. Okay, it is the metabolic the what you call those waste are removed from the blood. Okay, so waste free blood reaches over here. So here the oxygenated blood comes into the auricle. Similarly, here the blood comes which is waste free. So it is, there is a mixing up. Obviously it is not oxygenated at the renal through the renal vein, isn't it? So there is a mixing up. Okay, and this blood, it passes to the next chamber, that is ventricle, through a small aperture. This aperture, it is known as the auriculoventricular aperture. Okay, this is known as the auriculoventricular aperture, and this auriculoventricular aperture, we can see that it is what you call just 1 minute. Okay, yeah. So it is guarded by this aperture, this opening, it is guarded by a valve. Okay, it is the semilunar valve. So here there will be semilunar valve which guards the aperture. So this is the aperture, and these semilunar valves, it guards the like the aperture here. Okay, so what happens is the valve will what you call be open, and it allow blood to pass through from auricle to ventricle, right? The semilunar valves, it will prevent the backflow of blood from ventricle to auricle. Okay, and this particular the semilunar valves which guards the auriculoventricular aperture, they are specifically referred as auriculoventricular semilunar valve. The reason is there is another set of semilunar valve in the heart of the pila. Okay, so here it is specifically auriculoventricular semilunar valve. Now the blood has passed through the what you call the auriculoventricular aperture and has reached the ventricle. Now ventricle, as you can see, it is thick walled and it is muscular, highly muscular. It is a thick walled chamber. Okay, and the ventricles on the ventral side, towards the ventral side, you can see arising from the ventricle is a single vessel, and that is the aortic trunk. Okay, from the ventricle only a single vessel arises, and that is the aortic trunk. Okay, so aortic trunk, as soon as it emerges or it originates from the ventricle, it divides into two. The one which moves to the visceral mass, it is known as the visceral aorta. Okay, and the part of the aortic trunk, or the branch of the aortic trunk which moves towards the head and the foot, it is known as a cephalic aorta. Okay, so aortic trunk, it divides into two: the visceral aorta, which runs towards the visceral mass, and the cephalic aorta, which runs towards the what you call the head and the this one, the foot region. Okay, now so there comes the next set of semilunar valves over here. So what happens is, you can see here there is an aperture, isn't it? Another set of aperture which permits blood to pass from the ventricle to the aortic trunk. Okay, here the aperture, it is guarded by another set of semilunar valve, and this semilunar valve, it is known as aortic semilunar valve. Okay, I hope it is clear. This is actually between the auricle and ventricle. The semilunar valve is referred as the auriculoventricular semilunar valve, and the valve over here is referred as the aortic semilunar valve. Again, the similar it is just like this one over here. The semilunar valve over here, it will prevent the backflow of blood from aortic trunk to the ventricle. So this is about the heart. Okay, bilocular myogenic heart, having auricle and the ventricle. The auricle, it receives blood from three set of vessels: the oxygenated blood through efferent pulmonary vein from the pulmonary sac, the efferent tenedial vein from the tenedia or the gills. Okay, while the efferent renal vein, it takes blood from the kidneys, where the waste materials in the blood, it is being filtered out at the kidney. Okay, now the blood reaching the auricle, it moves through the auriculoventricular aperture to the ventricle. From there, it moves into the aortic trunk, and the aortic trunk, it branches into two: the visceral as well as the cephalic aorta. These branches, it will take the blood to various parts of the body. Okay, now another important feature is the presence of the aortic ampulla. Okay, here you can see the aortic ampulla. Aortic ampulla is actually a part of the what you call cephalic aorta. Okay, cephalic aorta, you can see it. Yeah, you can see here it is contains a thick walled muscular dilation. We can say it is contractile in nature. It is a dilated part, and this, it is referred as the aortic ampulla, or since it is present on the cephalic aorta, it is also known as cephalic ampulla. Okay, so I repeat, aortic ampulla is nothing but a contractile dilation, thick walled muscular contractile dilation present on the cephalic aorta, and it is also referred as cephalic ampulla. What is its function? It functions as an accessory heart or a supporting heart, and it actually regulates what you call the rhythmic beating of the um, uh, rhythmic actually movement of the blood. Okay, so this what you call the aortic ampulla, it can bring about a rhythmic beating, and this beating can maintain a constant blood circulation through the vessel. Okay, so the aortic ampulla, it acts as an accessory heart, and it helps in the beating, the rhythmic beating of the ampulla. It helps in maintaining a constant blood flow through the cephalic aorta. Okay, so that is about the what you call the structure of heart. Fine. The systems we will be looking in detail in the next presentation. Thank you.